I was scheduled live and my connection was lost, and so I apologize for that. I am going to pick up kind of where I think I got cut off. But today we are talking about beginner bookbinding for card makers. It is a new extension of my paper crafting hobby. My husband asked if I needed a new hobby. I said it's not a new hobby, it's just an extension of what I've already been doing. So here are a couple of the first simple books that I bound, and this is the kind of thing I'm going to be showing you today. So this was my very first one. This is called a pamphlet stitch. It is very easy to do. And if you are a paper crafter, you probably already have everything that you need to do to create a book like this. Tomorrow, I am going to be hosting a little Anne of Green Gables tea party, crafternoon, with a friend. And so I'm making her a little journal as a gift. So I've already cut down my scrapbooking paper. I've also added pockets that'll be on the front and the back. I've cut down my paper that's going to go inside the journal. So this is 5.5 by 8.5. And now we're going to be punching holes and doing our pamphlet stitch. So that's where we had left off. So the way that I'm going to do this, I could create a template on a piece of paper. And just to give you a quick idea of what that might look like, I could say, all right, this is 5.5 inches. So my template is going to be 5.5 inches. And then I could cut this down. And then this is my new template. And then I could make all of my marks on here. So if it's 5.5, I have to decide how many stitches I want to do. And I'm going to do 5. For the pamphlet stitch, you do need an odd number. 3 would be okay for this, but I'm going to be doing 5. And so I just want to make the math as easy on myself as possible. And so I'm going to scoot this so that I have 1/4 of an inch here and 1/4 of an inch here. This is what you would do if you didn't have a centering ruler. And then I know, okay, this is 5.5 inches. And then I can find my center, which would be at 3.5. And I do apologize if my math is a little wonky for you. I am a math teacher. That is my day job. I'm not in the classroom currently, but taught math for 15 years to middle and high school students, and geometry is my jam. So anyway, I love math, I love numbers. Oh, Dawn, you're back. Sorry about that. All right, so I find the middle, and then I decide how far apart I want my stitches to be. I think 1 inch apart would be great. So this is my center, and then I can go here and here. So the 4.5 and the 5.5 mark, and here and here. I'm really not looking at my numbers as I'm doing this. I'm looking at the markings and just trying to keep things even. We don't want them too close to the edge, but it doesn't really matter how far apart they are. And if these stitches aren't even, that doesn't really matter either. We can actually do this freehand and just punch right in the middle, one on either end that are pretty much the same distance apart, and then in between those two. But I'm just going to show you a couple of different options in case you're new like I was. So this could be my template. I would line it up, and then I would take my awl or my pokey tool, and I'm just going to punch through those 5 spots. I do have my paper and my cover. I want to punch them all at the same time because I want the thread to go through the front and the back all at once. So I've got everything lined up, and I did show you the template. Now I'm going to show you if you have a centering ruler, because then you don't have to do any math ever, and we can see what this will look like. So when I have this centered, I've got 2 5/8 on either side here. I can see everything's lined up. Got my pokey tool going in right in the middle. It takes less pressure than you would think to punch through just a few sheets of paper. I want to go right in at our center fold there. I'm going to make these 1 inch apart. And that's that. Now the angle that I'm coming in at is a little weird, so I am just gonna punch through one more time. Make sure it goes all the way through. I'm gonna show you one more trick here before I move on to the sewing. It's not convenient for me to have my paper cutter under the camera, but this guillotine has the perfect place for punching, and maybe you have a tool like this too. So what I've been doing is I've just been lining up my center crease right along this gap. And then when I punch, it just goes straight through and there's no resistance on the other side. So if you do happen to have something like this, this makes this step even easier. But it really was not difficult to do without that either. All right, and then the next step is stitching. So I have my thread and I've already threaded my needle. I just have to find it. Oh, there it is. Okay. Dawn says, tech is great until it isn't. Well, I mentioned that I am a math teacher, but also my special assignment right now is working for the IT department. And so tech issues are literally my life. It's literally all I do. So thread on the needle, you can use a variety of different threads for this. It sounds like in the bookbinding world, linen is a popular choice. Waxed linen is a very popular choice, but you can use whatever you want. You can use hemp cord, you can use yarn, you can use sewing thread. I like this because it's gold. And now I just make sure everything is lined up. And this stitch is called the pamphlet stitch. Yes, thank you so much for crafting after work. I'd lose my little tech teacher mind. So I cut my thread to be generously more than double the width of my spine here. And actually, I want my knot to be on the inside. You can do it on the inside or the outside, is up to you. I'm gonna do mine on the inside. So I'm gonna rethread that through, and then I'm just gonna leave enough of a tail that I can easily tie a knot. So that's plenty. And for the pamphlet stitch, you just need an odd number of holes. I'm going to go in through the next hole. So I have not skipped any holes. I started in the center, going up to the next one, and then into the last hole. I do sew a little bit, but this kind of sewing is so much easier and low stress. Oh, I love it. Okay, and now we're gonna go back in through that same hole. This is the first time that I'm teaching this, so I'm thinking I should have numbered these, so I'll do that real quick. Holes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 is our last hole. We just need an odd number here. This stitch works great with 3 holes as well, or 7. So now that I've started through hole 3, come out and back in through 4, out through 5, back in through 4, we're gonna skip 3. This is the only skip that we're gonna do, and that's just gonna make it so that we're not doubling up our stitches on the outside. All right, oh, thank you. Dawn, you said use the center of an open old book. That is brilliant too. All right, so we skipped over station 3. We're going out through station 2, in through station 1 or hole 1, however you want to call that. And we're almost done. Back through 2. Again, this is the pamphlet stitch. This is the simplest stitch you can do for bookbinding, so it's perfect for beginners. And then we're finishing through the 3rd hole there. So I'm going to show you the outside of this real quick. I'm going to tighten these threads, but do you see how we have these nice even loops there? That's what we want. And those stitches are exposed, so we do want them to be, you know, relatively even, and having a decorative thread or a thread in a coordinating color for your paper. You really get to be creative when you design this. So we're just going to tighten these, not pull so hard that we are tearing our paper. I think it's really nice to tie a knot while your needle is still on. Makes it a little bit easier. I'm just doing a simple double knot here. And then we trim. So you can leave as much or little extra thread as you like. It's an artistic choice. One thing that I like to do, because this thread is pretty, but it does unravel readily. I don't want this book to come unstitched. So I'm just going to add the tiniest drop of glue and push that into my knot. It's going to dry before it hits my pages, but it is going to help secure that knot. And that's it. I mean, we could decorate this, but that is the book. And I just had a moment of panic of it being upside down, but there we go. Not upside down. So we've got a pocket in the front and in the back. Those are really easy to create. I could decorate the front of this, and I think that I probably will add maybe this and maybe my friend's name. I need a little more time to think about that. When my feed cut out on me, it did stress me out just a little bit, so I don't know. I don't know exactly how I want to finish this. Oh, there is something else we need to do. This edge needs trimmed. Now, we could leave it because it is homemade, or we can cut it. Now, there are a few different options here. Out of all the supplies that I don't have in my craft room or in my house, I don't have a box cutter. And apparently, a box cutter with a cutting mat is a great way to just slice through layer by layer to get a nice edge there. But I do have my guillotine cutter, so I'm going to bring it back one more time and scoot it over. I bought this a few years ago on Amazon Marketplace, so it had been returned, and I think it cost me maybe $50, but it was the best $50 I've ever spent in my craft room. So this cutter definitely can go through 10 sheets of cotton paper with no problem. The next time that I do a video like this, I will show you with a knife and a cutting board, just in case you don't have a big guillotine cutter like this. And before I close out, a couple other things that we could do here. We could chomp the corners, so we could round them. We did add a pocket on this side, but it's okay. You could still chomp this corner. Even if it's not totally glued in a little bit, you could add a little bit more glue to that. That would be fine. You could add eyelets to the front and the back here and add an elastic cord so that it would hold it shut. So many ideas for decorating, including things like die cuts and decorative border punches and corner punches. I have a stack over here of a couple that I thought would be pretty on this too. I really like that. So I may go in and add a couple of those. Stamps. If you have a heat press, you could do vinyl. You could do glimmer, you could do better press. I mean, anything decorative that you do on your cards or your scrapbooks or other paper crafts, just the sky's the limit on how you could decorate these journals. I did want to create a stamp for the ends of my books because I do intend to give them as gifts. And I'll show you what I have right now. I'm not going to use it. This is an old typeset stamp where you have to pick out your letters and then you squeeze them onto the template there. And I just don't like it. I spent 10 minutes lining them all up on here. I'll stamp it. Maybe you can give me your opinion on it. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to hand carve a stamp. So this is neater than what mine will be. But at least, you know, it'll have a little bit more character. So just to show you, maybe you can talk me down off of this one. But I think it's ugly. I think it's too ugly for a gift that I spend so much time on. All right. And it just says handmade by Hannah. And I didn't get a perfect impression there. That's not a big deal because you can just use a pen. That doesn't bother me. I just think the font is ugly, I guess. What do you think? Too funny, Dawn. Yeah, this was another Goodwill find. I'm sure I spent $1 or $2 on it. And I thought it was going to be great. I was going to use it as an address stamp, but I think it's just dated. I think it's just an old font and it didn't hold up. So what I'll do instead is take a block of pink rubber and, well, I'll sketch out my handmade by Hannah first on a sheet of scratch paper, and then I'll transfer that to the rubber, and then I'll carve it out. So it'll be the opposite of this. It'll be a black block with the letters carved out. That's a little bit easier than carving out the thin lines of the letter. I've done both, but I think that will be easier. So that's my next step in my bookbinding journey. One more thing I guess I should mention, it's very popular to press your books. So put them under some heavy weights and let them sit like that. It'll just help things stay closed a little bit neater. I have lots of exciting ideas for future projects. I'll definitely be doing books where there are multiple sections or multiple signatures. I love the idea of doing hardcover binding. I love the idea of doing gold foiling on the edges, as well as painting details. There's such an exciting world out there in book arts, and I can't wait to share my journey with you. I hope that you have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining me. Dawn, thanks for being so active in the chat and following me from one stream to the next, and I will see you next week.